everyone. We are just about to get started, and we have people coming in, and we have our lovely participants here in Regal Red, our legal experts. I'm your moderator and host today, Lotus Lane. I'm an adult performer. I'm also the industry relations advocate at FSC, and that's why I'm here speaking to you with these lovely ladies here about sex and taxes. So we're sex workers and we do pay taxes. And this past year has been anything but usual. And our income streams were no exception. Thousands of new people flooded onto fan sites, clips, and cam sites, with many of them becoming independent contractors for the very first time. What can you legally deduct? Will putting sex worker on your 1040 cause you to lose your bank? Does the Amazon wish list count as income? There's so many random questions that could be in someone's head. So FSC INSPIRE, which is my program, brings author tax Domme, Lori St. Kitts, and performer tax attorney Beth McKenna for an exclusive panel here with the understanding of the underbelly of sex work and taxes. So yes, with no further ado, Beth, why don't you introduce yourself, please?
Thanks, Lotus. I am a lawyer by trade. I've been practicing law for 29 years now. And for the past 3 years, I've been in the adult industry as well, breaking into porn at the ripe old age of 51. So I'm excited to be here and will hopefully be able to answer most of your questions.
You'll be great. And we also have Lori St. Kitts here. If you could introduce yourself as well, please.
Hi, I'm Tax Domme. I'm a published author of the Tax Domme's Guide for Sex Workers and All Other Business People. I mainly work with adult entertainers, sex workers of all types. 53 years old, and I grew up in a tax office, so I always said I would never,
Awesome.
never. I told my mother at 17 as I'm typing the tax returns on an IBM typewriter, I will never do this. And she just laughed and went, yes, you will, and you'll enjoy it. She was right.
Well, we're great that you decided to follow in the footsteps to help our side, because not many do. So some of the questions that exactly. So some of the questions we're going to get into, one of the first ones is, what are the biggest mistakes sex workers first make when filing taxes? Lori, why don't you answer that one?
Oh, it's a loaded one. Yes. I have to say the number one issue I see is with escorts, DOMs, anyone who has a business that goes into some illegal income, not separate their income. Yeah, it's very important. Something else is getting into a corporation.
And when you say separate, you mean separate the legal from the...
Yes, the legal from the illegal.
Tricky stuff? Okay.
What I say is consultation, because I've looked this up. I talked with a lawyer about it, so I know it's all good. Consultation for the legal income. I mean, like, let's say an escort. Generally, it's an 80-20. 80% of the time, you're doing other things, nothing sexual. And then maybe around 20% of the time, they start ordering from the menu, as they say. And when they start ordering from the menu, then that gets separated. And the reason is you only want to take deductions from the legal income, not the illegal income. And that's what makes you have you a legal tax return. So the thing is,
got you.
Yeah, the thing is that if you mix the two, what happens is that you have tax fraud, because you're saying that illegal income is legal. And people don't realize this, I know this. You have tax evasion because you're not paying the 100% taxes, self-employment taxes on the illegal income. That's a lot.
I hear you. That's very good tip. What were you also going to say about the LLC right now?
Oh, the LLC. Yeah, we're going to LLCs. LLCs is a limited liability.
Oh, I just thought I heard you mentioning something about one.
Oh no, corporations.
Related to the.
You
Oh
don't
yeah,
have
that's right.
payroll. If they don't create payroll and pay them, even if, you know, it's silly, but even if they're the only person in the corporation, they don't make themselves an employee and pay payroll taxes. That's another
Got
one.
you.
Not filing
All right.
filing late, or filing after the extension if you owe a lot of money, because, you know, the fees and the interest accrues. So those are just a
Everything
few.
adds up. Okay, and Beth, from your perspective, since you are also a new performer, what are some of the biggest mistakes sex workers make when filing taxes in this realm for the first time?
From my experience as a performer, in talking to other performers and what we deduct, what we can and cannot deduct, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people not deducting things that they can legitimately deduct.
Yeah.
People
For
tend to be,
instance,
or either they're too timid about it, or, and I'm not saying take crazy risks, but they're either too timid about it, or they just honestly haven't thought about if it, you know, we all have our hair done, for instance, but I don't typically have my nails done in normal life. So if I'm
mm,
paying for a manicure, pedicure, that's for a shoot I've got
for a
coming
shoot,
up.
yeah.
So that to me is a deductible expense because I don't do that in normal life. And there's things that
Mm,
people don't think about that they could deduct.
I really need to speak to you about that, Beth. In 2013, the IRS became very, very cute in how they say, and they brought up the appearance and image, and it says that you can't take anything. You can't take any of those things. You know, I do it because it's, if it's defendable. If the person can defend it once in a year, maybe take hair and nails because you have a photo shoot. I totally get that.
Right.
I totally get that. Will the IRS accept it in an audit? Don't know.
Yeah.
That's all. I know it's
Okay.
just, things just change so rapidly. I know
Right.
it's hard to, uh, I hate being the bearer of
So
bad news.
the next question is, are there particular legal or financial dangers for sex workers when they're filing taxes? So things that they should look out for, like legal or financial dangers.
Hmm.
Go ahead, Lori.
Oh,
I think
okay.
you have a better answer to this one than I will.
Well, if you have too many red flags on a return, like, and
What would
it's
you
not
consider a
fair.
red flag?
I would, taking more than 50% or even close to 50% of your home office. Um,
Mm,
I say notes. I take notes, and pictures are your best defense. And you take them and you keep them with your files, because it isn't fair. Because a lot of people, there are people who use 3/4 of their apartment for, especially New York. It's not hard to do.
right, if you have a small apartment. Right,
Mhm.
exactly.
um,
And many single people do.
let's see. Um, ah, luck of the draw. If you happen to get an auditor that has it in for you and suspects that you're a sex worker and is anti-sex worker, um, that is another issue. Putting sex worker, I did have one client that put sex worker on her tax return. And she said, Lori,
Oh, okay, yeah.
she said, do it. And she already came to me under audit. The poor woman was dying of cancer. So she wanted to make a statement for sex workers. And
Okay.
we put that on there. And that auditor had been badgering her, had been really abusing her for over a year. And we did the tax return and we submitted it exactly right to the auditor, and the auditor had to drop the case. So, you know, it's as long as your tax returns
Like
like
if you're if
watertight.
you want to put up a fight or something.
I use consultation for the legal income, and I use all personal services, because that's tattoo parlors, that's a bunch of different things that could fall under that for the
Could be
illegal
like
income.
doing favors for a neighbor or something that's bedridden or something.
What do you mean?
I'm saying if
Oh,
you're doing
favors.
personal favors for people, yeah,
Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
things that you could
But
be compensated for
right. But
in a
you
personal
always
realm.
want to put whatever you put for what you do, you always want it to be as close to what you do as possible. You don't want to put a false title on there, you know.
So consultation is pretty general, you found, for
It
all,
is,
like,
and
most, covers most
yeah.
in an umbrella of terms.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good to know. Good to know.
Another category I use is entertainer.
Oh,
Because
yes.
entertainers, we're actors. So those are all
Comedians, true.
comedians, right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
Even Doms.
Right. Well, and I have the the privilege of having the attorney. I can just put attorney, but I'm
Right.
not going to put that when most of my income is not legal income, in that it came from my work as an attorney.
Right.
I
Right.
would put entertainer or
Mhm.
actor, something other than attorney on that, or consultant,
So the
Mhm.
more umbrella a term is, the better.
Yes,
Got
definitely.
it. Cool. So the next question, you kind of already answered it, Lori, was if people can actually just directly say sex
Oh,
worker
I'm sorry.
on a tax return. And
Yeah.
no, and if that's a flag for the IRS to, like, mess with someone more, and it
Mhm.
seems like we're still not quite there yet
Oh,
where it's acceptable, as far as, like, oh, it just gets passed through. Like, they will definitely investigate it a little
I
further,
have
is
one more thing to
what I'm
add,
guessing.
and it's not necessarily against the
Sure.
sex worker, but only legal
Hmm.
income can be used for financial advisory, like stocks, mutual funds, those kinds of things. They can
Mm,
only accept legal income.
got you. So if you're doing a lot of, say, the escorting or stuff on the side, you can't invest that into legal stocks on the
Yeah.
American stock market, because then you're committing.
Fraud.
Let me know. Okay, cool. And fraud is definitely what we do not want. We want to
No,
avoid
we
that at all
don't.
costs. Okay, okay, awesome. So yeah, glad you clarified that. Um, do you think that the IRS communicates with law enforcement or banks regarding a person's profession? Like, if someone was bold enough to put sex worker, or if you think if someone's had their bank account shut down because of sexually involved activities, do you think those entities communicate in any way?
I think the IRS definitely communicates with law enforcement for
Mhm.
sure. They're not
Hmm.
supposed to communicate with your bank without your permission.
Mhm.
Um, but I, I think there are circumstances where they probably do, or they may go through
Mm,
law enforcement to get to your bank. It's not the IRS directly communicating with your bank, but it's the
Mhm.
IRS calls the FBI or whoever that
Mhm.
they're doing something hinky. Let's go investigate, and so they subpoena your bank records.
Under
And
the Taxpayer Bill of Rights confidentiality,
hmm.
we all know they do. They're not supposed to.
right,
The only time they're supposed to actually go to law enforcement is when you are already under investigation by another legal entity, and
Ah,
they request the IRS to
okay.
give them your information. That is
but
the
they have
only
to,
time.
but they have to still give you notice of that too.
Yeah.
They're
Well,
supposedly, yeah, that
but
they're
also the bank, yeah, they will. It's very difficult to get a loan because you're considered high risk. My business is considered high risk. I'm boiling, fuming about that, but
Even
um,
though
vet,
your business as a
PayPal.
tax advisor,
Oh yeah,
your business as a tax advisor, because of who you
because
advise
I work
are
with the adult industry.
okay.
My business insurance is through the roof.
oh
But you know
wow.
what?
Wow.
I'm not going anywhere. I'll just work harder. That's all.
Love that
Um,
attitude.
Yeah.
Also, as
So
far as
yeah.
PayPal, PayPal has a
Yeah, how
clause.
does that
It's
work?
a
Hmm.
a moral clause that
Mm.
states uh, even if your webcam, phone sex, even legal, anything in the adult industry, they shut you down. So
Ugh.
I don't use them for my chastity dom business. I go and I use like Visa cards and that kind of thing.
Wow. So
So
one of the questions from the audience is, how does the IRS determine who to audit? Is it random?
It
it
can be
is.
random, but
Mhm.
it's the red flags we were talking about earlier. If they see
Yeah.
um, like the home office deduction is a huge red flag, just generally for any industry. So I've always, because I have I have an office that I'm sitting in now, but I also have a bedroom that I use for shooting stuff here at home. Well, that's also a guest room. So because it's not used exclusively for adult work, I don't deduct the bedroom. I just deduct this tiny office. But it's a red flag, that, and there are others. Lori, speak to other red flags that trigger
Mileage.
mileage is a big one.
Salespeople get nabbed when they go 50% or over with mileage.
So it's like if you become too kind of greedy with the amount of mileage that you want to claim.
Well, not greedy. They're just really stingy.
I see. Would an all cash business be red flag? Like maybe an exotic dancer or escort of that sort? Would that be an extreme red flag?
Not
Would
extreme.
you have to have some sort of payroll on your
bank account?
Well,
here's the deal: paper trail. Because you have bodegas in the cities, you have so many types of people that are cash only basis. But you just need the paper trail. You need income is just as important to them as deductions. People don't realize that. So you need a good paper trail to show where you got the money, how much you got, and all of that.
And that's really difficult to do in a situation where, for instance, you're escorting, and it's again, that's not necessarily some of it, not legal income. So how do you create a paper trail? There's no really
that was
safe.
Exactly going to be my next question.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but it's really, I think it's hard in any cash business to show a paper trail, even if you are a bodega. There's a restaurant here in my hometown that for years has only taken cash, no checks, no credit cards for years. And of course we're like, they're not paying taxes on all that. So of course that's the assumption. But how would that, but they have employees, they employ wait staff and other,
inventory, cost of goods sold helps with that, but that's not, we can't do that.
Show some income, maybe not all of it, but they've got to show some.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it be a good idea? Because I've heard of some people, there's like, like there's the 2257 apps and model release apps. There's apps that can just produce generic payroll. Would you suggest doing that as just a, hey, here's paperwork. Just here's something that says something.
I don't see why not if you want to put yourself on.
I don't know. Most of the 2257.
I don't know much about
people
that.
doing that. It's just like a blank payroll that some people use to make for any kind of business,
right?
Real or imaginary.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, some of the
like say if you're a small jewelry maker, but you have like someone that helps you, you would just use this payroll app instead of going through the whole system, because you just have one employee.
I'm not familiar with the payroll app, so I'll have to take a look at that.
But yeah, I've heard of some people doing that in our business when they want like to show, hey, I have like proven income, maybe for getting an apartment or something like that.
Right.
You could shoot me an email that has something in it. That would be great.
Oh yeah, I definitely will. I mean, I haven't seen them. I haven't needed to use one in a minute, but it was definitely something that I've came across in my earlier days of the adult industry, and I'm sure a lot of people still come across that now. Another question is, how exactly do you go about organizing the separation of legal versus illegal income?
I say keep either 2 sets of books or one book with a line down the middle. And it's I'm going to say this right now. It is a pain in the ass. It really is, but it's going to save your ass.
Yep.
And so on one side, put, right after the client leaves, put how much, depending on how much time they spent with you, just on the date, and then how much time on the menu, and just put that immediately in your, make a record book or Excel spreadsheet, or I'm sure there's an app you can you can use for that.
Well, and
Write it in your iPhone notes, wherever, right?
Right. I use QuickBooks, and so for my
Awesome.
business overall, and so you can delineate on QuickBooks. You can itemize. Like I bought my TurboTax products for the year the other day, along with some other stuff, and so I split because that's a business expense, but the rest of the stuff I bought was not. So you can itemize this amount for TurboTax product versus the rest of it for household goods. But you could do the same thing if you're, say if you get, you're depositing $500, just for an easy example, and 400 of it is legal, and 100 of it is off the menu, as you say, then you can itemize that within your software if you keep your books, or however you keep your books. And so, and the cool thing about QuickBooks, and I'm sure other software does this too, because it's an Intuit product, it flows into TurboTax. So it imports everything right. So you set, and you would set your, what's it called? A line item that it would go to on your tax return. Like for me, adult income is what I call it, my income from porn, which is legal. So that's 1099 income. But you could delineate your non-legal income on a different tax line or not tax related, however you want to do it to separate it out. But there are ways you can do that within your accounting software if you use that. Just practical.
Good point.
That is cool to know. Maybe winning me over on QuickBooks just because of the ease of use there.
And the other
like that. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you can do that.
The other thing you could do, I'm not sure I would go this far, is to have a separate, like if you're getting, it's not always cash though, so that would be difficult. If have a separate bank account, and so with that same $500, I'm going to put $400 of it in the McKenna Productions LLC account as income, and then the other 100 of it in my non-legal, I don't know what I'd call it, but in another bank account.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I don't know. I think there are some practical problems with that. If somebody's say sending you a deposit over Venmo or one of those that's a little less strict than PayPal, how do you separate that out? I've not thought about that.
I know, that's the thing. That's where sometimes I just, when they first come to me, I use just 80-20%, but it's better to have it separated out.
Yeah.
Something else that's really important is corporation. If somebody wants to have a corporation, you can only put legal income on the corporation because it doesn't have a way to
when
separate
you have
it.
your LLC or your S corp or whatnot. Is that what you're saying?
The LLC is a different story.
She's talking about a C corp.
Yeah.
Because the
corporate or a C corp.
Just the C corp, the corporation pays taxes on its income,
right?
And then you pay taxes on your income through the C corp. Right. But in an S corp, it works exactly like a LLC would, where all of that income and all of those deductions flow directly through to you personally. So
even if it's just negative, I love that.
Even if it's negative, she's talking about a C corp where the corporation pays taxes first.
I'm actually talking about both of them.
Yeah.
The income is about income because people they think, oh, I can hide it and then I'll pay my taxes. And no, you can't. No. You can only put the legal portion of your income on any corporation. And then you do a Schedule C for your illegal income. And
Schedule C.
Yeah.
But corporations people keep that in mind. Schedule C for the extracurricular money.
Right. Right.
So let's see. What was that, Beth? You had one last thing to add?
Well, and let's explain what the Schedule C is a little bit. It's the schedule of income and deductions of a sole proprietor.
Got you.
So that's where all of those but you can't take deductions from illegal income. So it's a pretty blank form you'll have. on that schedule. So you would, in theory, if you're working as a independent contractor for legal stuff in porn and as an escort for illegal stuff, you'd have 2 Schedule Cs for each business. Anyway.
Got you. Thank you. So the next question we have is, should people keep the paper receipts for the paper trail? How many years or for how many months should we keep them for? That's a good question, because I'm never sure myself. 6 months, a year, like 2 years, 8 years? Like, I really have no clue.
I keep receipts for 7, and with my tax returns for 7 years, everything, and I put it all together. Like, I don't know if you can see this back here. Those are separating all of my different work-related expenses from like this credit card or from this bank account or whatever. And so when I do my taxes, I'll pull all of that. And once I finish my taxes, I keep all of I have a home office. So all of the utilities the percentage of this office is to my home, I can take that percentage of utilities. So all of my utility bills I keep, even though this is I don't remember the percentage, but it's tiny. But I keep all of that together with that tax return. And it's last year I had 2 big fat envelopes, but I keep all of that together for 7 years.
Gotcha.
My
that's
suggestion,
really great advice, because
my suggestion is
forever. Way less than that. Forever. Don't ever get rid of them. Okay.
You should scan. I'll tell you why, but wait a minute. You should scan your receipts too. And I hate it because I got to get another scanner now. But I scan the receipts because they can fade. And also, you just can put them in your files on the computer and get rid of the hard copies. Because what a pain that is. Why I say forever is because our friends, the IRS, they have no statute of limitations on anything. They can come for you whenever. And they sometimes do. I don't want to scare people, but a little bit of fear doesn't hurt. So I keep mine. I've got everything. I've got tax returns back until 1993 when I had my first little deduction. Son. So just to be safe. No, you're right about the 7 years. That's what they're supposed to. That's what you're supposed to be safe within the 7 years. You're right about that, Beth. But it's been my experience, unfortunately, to see that they sometimes will go way back.
And find a reason somehow.
It's always good to keep everything together.
What's the furthest back you've seen the IRS search?
Oh, I had one guy.
Information.
How far did we go back with him? I had to. Oh, they didn't have they didn't have. What was it? 1998, and they didn't have the. I don't know if it was using Drake or TurboTax at the time, but they did. I had to download the forms myself and do it by hand because they didn't have the program.
Wow. So but back in the day, before programs were around.
Just to save your ass.
Yeah.
And I have a save your hiney file, literally, in my.
And what do you mean by that?
I put like a Chesty Love's court decision, and she was able to take her breasts as a prop. It was over 800 cc's. I keep stuff like that in a save my hiney file.
Like where people have won their cases or whatnot.
Yeah, so I can always go
that's awesome.
there to enter the IRS's own words, because sometimes they don't follow their own words.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I'm getting
have some evidence already stacked up to, for a future case that may go against you that could help win things in your direction. I mean, we are sex workers, keep it real. Like, we have to protect ourselves at all costs from all angles, because there will be attacks from all sides, whether we realize it or not. It'll catch us when we're slipping. So one of the questions that I next have is, do you think that IRS tracks cryptocurrency? Do we have to report that? Because more of us are getting into that now. I know it's like very new, so that is why it's an out there kind of question. Or do you know where people should look to kind of find out?
I'm clueless about that myself, but my answer as a lawyer would be if they don't track it now, they're going to find a way because it's
Yeah.
a taxable, potentially taxable item, and they're going to find a way to tax it. They're going to find a way to track it.
I would go, you know what I use? I use the IRS site, but I use Google to search because even for me, searching on the IRS site is,
Awful.
yeah. So I would
Hard.
search it. You know, that's the one thing I didn't look up last night.
It's all
But
good.
yeah, and it's changed. I'm sure it's changed in the past few years.
Yeah.
So that's something we got to research, I think.
The case recently where the guy had like some $7 million in a locked account, and he couldn't remember the password, and he didn't have that much initially, but had just sat there and grown to $7 million, and he was just gonna let it go because he's a rich idiot, but he couldn't. I mean, what do you do? He had 2 attempts to do the password, and he did it so many years ago. He would never guess it. But
Wow.
it just occurred to me, I wonder if that would be taxable to him, even if he doesn't get that money.
Right.
And I don't know the answer to that.
If it's considered an account where he has it, ooh,
And
it's income.
Yeah, so don't lose your passwords.
It's interest income or investment income. So it's taxable money, but
right. I would err to the side of yes then. So make sure you keep your passwords. Definitely make sure you keep your passwords. Do you think or not do you think, but in the case that someone does get audited by the IRS, what should they do? What steps should they take besides freak out or panic or something?
The first thing I say is don't do nothing.
Okay.
The worst thing you can do is nothing.
Don't ignore it. Right. But
so what should they do?
It would depend on whether they prepared their taxes themselves or whether they had a professional do it. And if they had a professional do it, the first thing I would do is pick up the phone and call that professional because they are going to have your back to the extent they're legally allowed to. Now, if you're in my situation and you've done it yourself, I'm going to find a professional to call to help me with it because that's above my pay grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you there.
Great advice.
I'm gonna call Lori.
I'm gonna call you.
If you're listening,
well, when your 2 powers combine,
let us know. We're recruiting.
We know a lot, but we can't know everything.
No.
Right. But when your 2 powers combine, I'm sure you can figure out some of these legal conundrums that we get ourselves into. So definitely call legal expert. Don't sit on it. Don't ignore it. It is going to be something that you have to deal with if it.
So first, get a letter. The first part of an audit is a love letter from the IRS. I like to call them love letters because it takes the edge off. And that's the first thing. So the first couple of correspondence you're going to hear from them is a letter.
And
that's also documentation that they're not false, that they're the IRS and this is what they're looking for. And generally, when they send a love letter, it's that's the first step. They're just asking for information. Hey, we want clarification on this. And sometimes that's as far as you can go. But then if it goes into a full-blown audit, don't panic.
Right.
Don't be disrespectful. Don't be completely defensive when you're talking to them. Be calm, cool. Say, I tell them, hey, I wouldn't want your job, push them up a little bit. You know what I mean? What else did you say, Beth?
I actually got a letter for this past tax year. I'm in Mississippi and we do have a state income tax. So I got a letter from the state tax commission asking, and it was, just the checklist letter where we need, you're deducting this and this and this, and we need this and this and this information. Well, like I said, I had 2 envelopes. So I copied all of it and mailed it to them. And 6 weeks later, I got my tax refund to the full extent that I had submitted it on TurboTax. So keep those receipts, keep everything. It feels stupid, but it feels it's taking up a lot of space, but keep every piece of paper. When I order, I have two separate credit cards that I use. One is a personal and one is a only business related. And so when I order stuff on Amazon, I'm careful to use, and I'll have a
business
separate
card.
order for business
Right.
card and personal.
Oh, cool.
But I'll go on, and I did that just today, is I ordered, actually, Lori, I ordered your book. And so I paid for it with my business card because that's a business related expense. And I went on Amazon and printed out the order page and put it back here with my business credit card receipts. So I can show that when the time comes to do my tax.
Good
So
advice.
that's when I keep separate cards, separate bank accounts for personal and business. And then I'll go and print out those receipts on Amazon. I get paper bills. I know it's irritating to the companies, but I get paper bills from utilities instead of electronic bills because I don't want to, it's a pain in the ass to go print them out. So I just get them to send them. And that goes right in those envelopes at the end of the year. But keep every piece of paper.
Oh, yeah.
Very meticulous, very smart advice. Very cool. So speaking of Amazon, do you think that the Amazon wish list counts as income or counts
If you
as
buy
any
from
kind of
it,
special deduction?
if you get tips and gifts from it. The wish list itself, no, because it's just a list.
But if you're
if they order a gift for you, then it is.
A gift is not like, because some people will get paid by Amazon.
That's what I'm saying, like gift cards. Yeah, that's kind of the question.
The gift card, I think, would clearly be taxable income. But
some can be hundreds or thousands of dollars in gift cards.
So if somebody buys you a lingerie set off your gift list, is that still?
Yes,
is that
it's considered a gift, and you use the what is it? The price of the gift as the amount of your income of that tip.
Boo, I don't like that answer.
I know. I always have answers people don't like.
So
I feel badly for people because I know it's important. This is important stuff for people.
Yeah,
and I know, but to keep us safe.
Yeah, exactly. Better safe.
Hold off on the tomatoes for just a little while.
So keep track of your gifts and keep track of the value of those gifts because it will count as the gift section in the taxings. Got you. I mean, I've always seen that before, but I always assumed it was just money gifts. So that's good clarification.
If it makes you feel better, you're paying into your self-employment, which is Social Security and Medicare. You're paying into, well, let's hope we have these accounts when we get older. But you're paying into them when you're paying the IRS.
Got you.
Social Security Administration is not part of the IRS, but they collect their money through self-employment in the IRS. But if it's any consolation at all, the more money you make, the more
retirement you'll have, in theory.
There you go.
In theory, yeah.
So we're getting close to the end, and one of the last questions that I have is, in the situation of choosing an S corp or an LLC, why would someone want to choose one or over the other? What situation makes an LLC make more sense, or what situation makes an S corp make more sense?
Do you want the tax answer or the performer answer, or both?
Maybe both. Yeah, it would
both,
help depending on the way someone thinks. Yeah.
Well, and it's different for every state. From a performer point of view, it costs me $50 one-time fee to start an LLC or an S corp, and I have actually both now. But if I live in California, if I have a California business, I think a friend of mine said it's $800 a year. So for either one. But then I'm thinking, well, why do you have to incorporate in California? Just because you live there, corporations choose Delaware for favorable tax treatment all the time. So why do you have to choose a California LLC or S corp, even though you live there? That's
very true. I've heard that.
I can answer that.
Corporate lawyer. Go ahead, Lori.
You have to, because California, greedy as they are, if you work in California, or if your office is in California, just reside in California, then they want their cut.
Of course they do.
So it's what's happening is more states are doing this, and it's getting less and less profitable to go to other states. I have to
Okay.
look up again. I haven't looked up all my state updates yet. I've got to do that. But that's it. Just I've got a lot of California clients, and it's
Mhm.
a pain. I mean, yeah. So you'd be
Okay,
paying
so
twice.
if you're in California, you're stuck incorporating in California. Okay. Yeah, see, I don't think Mississippi is that progressive. They haven't thought, because they don't have a large sex work industry. I may be the only one, I don't know. But from a
Incorporated
performer
anyway.
perspective, between an LLC and an S corp, um, it really doesn't make that much difference because the income flows down and the deductions flow down to you individually anyway.
Right.
I would approach it from a perspective of where are you working? If I'm working in California and I'm dealing with AB5, then I'm gonna get paid under my S corp.
Mm.
Anywhere else, like I'm
Mhm.
working a lot in Florida right now because I literally cannot get safely to California to shoot, and they don't care.
Yeah.
So I'll get paid under my LLC there, but in California, I'll get paid under my S corp simply because of AB5. So that to me depends on where you're shooting and that state's law.
I have some. It's
Yes.
a lot about liability. People get mixed
Okay.
up. LLC is a limited liability company, not a corporation, and it's very limited on the liability. So it protects your business assets. However, with what a lot of us do, they can sue us personally. You have to keep that in mind.
Mm.
S corp will be much more protection. But the thing
Okay.
with the S corp is this: why a lot of people like it is you're a shareholder and you can have common stock.
Hmm.
I believe you can retain income. That's right. You can retain income for corporate growth, meaning you can retain some of your earnings and not have to pay taxes or that, but keep it for your. But then you have to show how you're doing it, though. You do have to show it eventually.
A lot more
I'm not.
complicated.
I'm pretty sure. I'm going to put this out there, but look it up to make sure. That you can double dip with your IRAs and your 401ks as paying in as an employee and paying as an employer. I think you can do both. I think
Employee
it comes
and
to
employer
mind,
on
so
the
I
S
think
corp,
I
right?
looked it up,
You're
but
talking about on the S corp, right?
on the S corp. That's why people like the S corp.
Yeah, that's what
The
I've
one
heard as well.
problem
That's
that
good to know.
people get S corps and C corps because they think it makes them a legitimate business. And if that's why you're doing it, don't do it. You don't need to do it.
So why would you do it if not to make
Well, I told
yourself
you,
a legitimate business?
liability,
Yeah.
liability purposes.
Other than AB5 liability is the only reason for a
Got you.
performer. Other than liability,
Yeah.
that stupid AB5 law is the only reason to do it.
Yeah.
We are kind of stuck there.
One
Yep.
thing is distributions. People want to take
Yeah,
distributions so they don't have to pay payroll taxes. And what I say to that, and a lot of tax,
distributions.
the distribution,
From a corporation, the income can be distributed to the shareholders.
right. However,
Okay.
the IRS is very keen on that because they want their, the Social Security Administration wants their cut. So you can't just take, oh, I'll take 50% of it as a distribution. No, don't do it, because the IRS will most likely come back to you and say, okay, fine. Prove that it isn't wages, especially if you're the only person in the corporation.
Right.
Right.
There's some,
well, thank you so much for your guys' insights and expertise. I'm like, got a lot to think about now.
I learned a lot.
Were there any last final thoughts that you guys wanted to share with our audience before we say goodbye?
Yes.
Beth?
Go ahead, Lori.
No, you go ahead, because I'm trying to think of it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well,
okay.
My main advice would be to seek answers I'm happy to help to the extent I have knowledge. And if I don't have the knowledge, I can either look it up or I can send you to Lori, or if she doesn't have the knowledge, between the two of us, we can find you somebody that does. But don't guess, don't take chances, let somebody help you with these answers. I don't know if Lori uses QuickBooks. I use QuickBooks and have for years. So if you're trying to set up QuickBooks, I can help you with that. What else, Lori?
One thing, it's the name of one of my seminars was "The evil you know is better than the evil you don't know."
Ooh,
I live by
good.
that. I live by it in my personal life. My Aunt Nellie Tamayolo used to say it, and I live by it.
So good. And we know how evil taxes can be.
Don't
And definitely
become an ostrich.
So.
Don't be an ostrich.
Yeah.
Don't stick your head in the sand.
Bad.
Don't even
be aware. Yeah, be aware, face that evil. So thank you, ladies, so much for taking the time to speak with me and our audience about sex and taxes and how it all works for us. Yeah, we're so appreciative. So have a great, wonderful day. And yes, and we all got to meet and talk.